Okay.
Yes.
All right. Can you see the live button in the
Yeah.
top?
Hmm.
Okay, cool. So let me just okay. Can you see the eyeball that shows how many people are on?
Nope.
Two? No,
Nope.
okay.
It just says the
Hello.
live.
All right, cool. So I can see it. So I'll kind of this is a we're doing a conversation today, informal conversation on co-parenting. And we were going live on Instagram. Instagram is tripping. So here we are on YouTube.
Yes.
So for anyone who is tuning in, thank you for joining us. And if you're watching a replay, thank you for tuning in. Please make sure you share this with anyone in your audience or your friends or followers list who could use this information. And Miss Todd, I'm going to let you jump in and introduce yourself and we'll just get going.
Okay. I'm Tamela Todd. I'm a mental health advocate, coach, and author. What I do specialize in is helping women turn their past hurts into healthy habits and behaviors. And we all know that co parenting is a topic that a lot of people struggle with. I personally struggle with it myself, until something really clicked off to me and said, wait a minute, the kids are watching how you all are interacting.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, I found your platform on Instagram saying Family Court Academy. And I was like, this is awesome. This is really needed. And it was something that I wish I had. So that's why I wanted to, just have a conversation with you to give out tips to other people who are going through either have a blended family or starting a blended family, because we need these resources to make us better in the community.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes. So
Cool.
I just wanted to go over like a few things that we could use that most you hear most people talk about. And the
Mm-hmm.
first one would be sabotaging your child's relationship with the other parent. Like,
Mm.
what are some tips you could give us on that? Because I think a lot of us do it and don't realize we have done it.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I think that one of the most common things that I see is that people don't realize or remember that when you're going through a divorce or a separation from the other parent, or if you, for whatever reason, just decide you're not going to be together, a lot of times people unintentionally and sometimes intentionally, right, involve their children in things that they should not be involved in. So they have conversations with their children as though their kids are their friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
they confide in their children about the relationship issues or even just the general disagreements that are happening between the parents. And a lot of times what that turns into is projection.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up projecting that onto your kids, and then they start to see their own relationships with that parent the same way. Some
Right.
people take it a step further, right? And they intentionally say things to their children with the intent to alienate them from the other parent and
Yes.
to kind of sabotage that relationship. So intentionally telling them about disagreements or the bad things that happened in your relationship that
Mm-hmm.
children don't necessarily need to know. Intentionally telling them, your mom or your dad is absent and these are the reasons why, if they're not truly the reasons why. And I believe in, being transparent, right, with your
Mm-hmm.
kids and keeping it real with your kids. Like if the parent is a deadbeat, you don't want to praise the parent as if, you know, they're
Right.
doing something right, because that will
Mm-hmm.
just cause confusion. But at the same time, bashing them is not going to help either,
Nope.
right?
It doesn't. No.
Yeah. So I
'Cause
mean,
I
go.
always feel like eventually the child is going to figure out about the parent themselves.
Yep.
So when I learned that, like I said, because I had to check myself, but when I learned that, I'm like, eventually they're going to grow up and they're going to see who that person is and really realize why you all two are not together, because they're going to figure
Hmm.
out, because we all have flaws. So they're going to
Right.
figure out your flaws too. So that's how I kind of, I feel about it. Like, let that child learn that parent's personality, and they will soon become adults, because they don't say babies forever,
Right.
and they will figure it out.
Yep. And the reality is, like, if they're as horrible as you say they are, the kids definitely will
Oh
figure
yes.
that out on their own. It's not something that, the kids are kind of just going to be completely oblivious to. Like, kids pay attention to everything.
Oh,
And that's
everything.
what I oftentimes have to tell my clients, because even if you're not speaking directly to the children, your actions, all of
Mm-hmm.
these things come into play and your kids are paying attention, you know?
That's true. That's true. Okay, well then also we kind of touched on it, but I want to talk about making children choose sides, like with holidays and things like that,
Mhm.
um, or like overcompensating them because it's the holiday for them to get to do what you want them to do. I've
Right.
witnessed people do that, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah. It's children should not have to choose, right? They didn't ask
Right.
to be there to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that we as parents have to remember is that one, the child deserves to, absent, of course, some extreme circumstances, right, that justify otherwise. The children deserve to have a relationship with both parents, to be able to spend time with both parents, to be able to partake in both parents' traditions and family history and family events and things of that nature, right? For the most part.
Right.
So, a lot of times what people do is they want their kid to choose them. Come with me. I'm going to this place. You should be coming with me. I'm going to
Yes.
be doing this. You should be coming with me instead. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to miss out, right? And that's the
Yeah.
thing. Kids don't want to miss out on stuff.
No.
And a lot of times that's what it turns into. And then you're playing tug of war with your kids. And even if they
Mm-hmm.
don't want to come with you, they kind of feel pressured. And one thing that I often have to tell people and, parents is that you may not even realize that you're asking your kids to choose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your behavior is what makes them feel like they have to choose. So, for example, if your kid's coming home from the other parent's house and they're super excited about something that happened
Right.
over there, something they got over there, something they did over there, whatever. They're super excited to tell you about it. And you completely show disinterest. You
Mm-hmm.
tell them you don't want to hear about it, or you otherwise express some type of disdain towards the other parent. Then the child doesn't feel safe or comfortable coming to you and talking about what, mommy or daddy's house, right? Which
Right.
means that now they start to feel and internalize that and feel like, well, man, now I shouldn't have such a positive experience or relationship when I'm gone.
Right.
Now, so now when they're coming back to your house, they're going to make it seem like, even if they weren't miserable, they want
Mm-hmm.
you to feel like they were miserable because that's what you want in their
Yeah.
eyes, right? So
And they
that's
want
when
to please you. They want to
yeah,
please you.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the kids will adjust and they'll keep doing that. They'll flip flop. They'll act
Mm-hmm.
like that at your house. They'll act like that at the other parent's house if the other parent is the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And it just turns into a hot mess,
Right.
essentially, right?
Right. Yeah, there is it's more than a notion.
Yeah.
Yeah. The next one will be about your child manipulating the ex, like telling them a little of this or asking too many questions about the other parent's household. I remember when I got a divorce and they were saying that you shouldn't ask a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the questions about what's going on in the other parent's house unless it has something to do with the child because they
Right.
have their own rules and they have their own routine and all those things, and that's what the child has to follow while they're there. And I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where people are nosy, right? We just want to know what's going on. How they
Yeah.
operating over there when I'm not there, or now that our relationship is different, now that we've
Hmm.
split up, how are you operating? What's going on over there? Are you going to
Right.
bed? You eating junk food?
Hmm.
What's your schedule like? And those things can be important, right? Because
Right.
stability and routine and consistency and familiarity are all extremely important,
Hmm.
especially when you're in a divided family and you're going to be bouncing back and forth between
Right.
homes. But who was over there, where your daddy went, where your mom was, where they was going and what they was
Hmm.
doing and how late they were out and all of that, as long as your kids were safe, that ain't
That's
none of
right.
your business,
That's
right?
not in your business.
And a lot of times that's what happens. People just, they want to dig and figure things out or just know for the sake
Hmm.
of knowing. And then the flip side of that is people want to take that information and kind of just have control. A lot
Hmm.
of times what you have to remember is you cannot control what happens at the other parent's
You
house.
can't. You can't.
So as long as your children are safe, you have to essentially put trust in the other parent, right?
Hmm.
And trust that whatever is happening, It just is
Right.
what it is. And as long as your
Right.
kids are not in danger, what goes on at mom or dad's house, or who they are with, or who they're in a relationship with,
Yeah.
as long as it's not something that's going to be detrimental to your kids, the reality is you just got to let it go.
Yeah.
And that's where we struggle, right? We struggle with letting go because you're used to, especially if you were, a two-parent household, you're
Mm-hmm.
used to being there consistently and interacting consistently and knowing about what happens every single day with your kids. So having
Mm-hmm.
to go from that to seeing them every other weekend or however often you see them, I get that, that's a
Right.
struggle, but that's the new reality.
Yeah.
And letting go is going to be important because otherwise your kids are again going to be torn
Caught
in the
in the
middle.
middle. Yeah, they're in the middle.
Yep.
And
Thank you
what?
guys who are joining. If you have any questions, just go ahead and drop them in the comments. I can see your comments while we are here and we'll answer any questions that you have. Go ahead.
Okay. I wanted any do's and don'ts that you suggest. Like, if you have three top do's, and three top don'ts that you would suggest that in
As it relates to
co-parenting.
co-parenting?
Yeah, as it relates to co-parenting.
Okay. So I would say don'ts. I'm gonna start with the don'ts.
Okay.
I got a long list of don'ts, right?
Right.
Like, because co-parenting is one of them things that it's difficult to get over your emotions and your feelings,
Oh,
right?
yes,
And
it is.
I
Yes.
deal with it in representing my clients in court, but I also have dealt with it personally, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that mess is not easy, and the struggle, it be real sometimes. So
Yes.
I can't sit here
Yes.
and act like it wasn't, right?
It was real.
So
Trust me.
one don't would be just disparaging the other parent. It
Okay.
doesn't matter how raggedy you think they are, how bad their parenting skills are according to you, whatever it is. Your kids, and we kind of touched on this earlier, but you don't need to be having those conversations with your kids, and you don't need to have those conversations in the presence or the hearing distance of your kids. And the reason is because the kids are half you and half the other parent,
Yep.
essentially. That's how they
50-50.
see themselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if you dogging their mom or their dad and talking mess about them all the time, then they're going to start to internalize that and feel like, well, she hates my mom or my dad so much, so she must hate a part of me too. And
Yeah.
when I represent children in family court, that is like one of the biggest things that people don't realize, that their kids are starting to feel these things and internalize these things because this is what they're hearing. So they might not say anything to you about it, but they start to feel that. And you don't want your kids walking around feeling like,
Mm-mm.
you don't love them, or they're a
Right.
mistake, or you were an oops, even if that was the case, right? So the pregnancy itself may not have been planned, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak, but you don't ever want your kids to feel like they're this mistake and regret that you have. And that's what often happens if you're, having these negative conversations. And you got to check your family and friends too,
Yes.
because they'll do that around you. And if you don't check them in front of your kids, then your kids are going to think that essentially you feel the same way.
Right.
So you just gotta be careful, and mindful.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one of the don'ts. And let's see, I'm reading some of the comments here.
Okay.
Harrison says they'll even start behaving like what they hear the other parent. Listen, that is
Yes.
so true.
Yes.
That is
Very
so
true.
true. They'll start behaving that way. They internalize it. Yeah, we gotta do better as parents, specifically in the blended family and the divided family community.
Yes.
Another don't would be having conversations with the other parent that are going to turn into drama in front of
Oh,
your kids, right?
yeah.
When you are co-parenting, if you know that you and the other parent are not going to be able to have a peaceful conversation, one, if you're even going to try to have a conversation, you need to do it in private when your
Mhm.
children are not present, right? But if you know that you're not going to make any headway and you're wasting your time, you might just want to try to have that engagement in writing.
Mhm.
So, one, because a lot of times people play a little bit nicer in writing, not
Mhm.
always. Some people still act a fool on paper,
Mhm.
but for the most part, sometimes people play nice in writing. And then also, it just keeps things a little bit more organized. And you can't say that I said X, Y, and Z because I
Yeah.
sent you a message. So the message is right here. So don't say that I accused you of something or that I did something when it's all right here in writing, right? Which is what happens
And
with phone calls and conversations.
yeah, I just wanted to say with me personally, what I did was I opened up a whole new email for my
Hmm.
ex,
Okay.
and I would email him because our conversations would just be so disrespectful. So
Right.
I started emailing him so he wouldn't say once we went to court, I said something other than what I said.
Hmm.
And that way it cut down on a lot of confusion. If it was
Right.
something she was having at school, I would email him her schedule, I would email him everything. And that's
Right.
how I cut down all the tension between the two of us.
Yeah. See that communication right there.
Yeah.
That is and now when you were emailing, did it make you email a little bit nicer?
Yeah, I was straight to the point.
Straight to the point. Keep it to the
Straight to the
basics. You're not
yeah.
going off on a tangent about what he did or said
Mhm.
yesterday. It's kind
Right.
of like, this is what it is. This is what it's not.
Yeah. Because
you
it was
know.
straight to the point. It was dance is on Thursday at 6 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
Or winter break is this,
Right.
this is a copy of the report card. So it was strictly to the point, and that way it cut down on all that you said
Mhm.
this, I said that, no, she said this. Because when you go to court, it's back and forth, he say, she
Yeah.
say. But if you have the email documents, or the transcribed emails, you can't say I said anything, because this is the only way I'm communicating with you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. And
Yeah.
another way to communicate, and a lot of people who follow me know this, but there are now, it's 2021, right? We got
Yeah.
technology is everything. So you have all these apps that have been created for parents who are in the middle of co-parenting and family court and things of that nature. So the two most popular that I recommend for my clients, and this is just because I'm familiar with them, there are some other ones,
Hmm.
but talkingparents.com.
Okay.
That is that one's free. The only time that you have to pay for that is when you want to print out the records, and they're not that expensive. I think it's per page. So you usually won't spend no more than about $20-$30 printing out the records, and the court
Okay.
recognizes that as a communication platform, right? So
Hmm.
it keeps everything in one place. You have a communication stream. It's almost like an email thread, and
Okay.
you can do it by subject. So you can start a new thread, or you can have, everything in one thread. There's also like a calendar in there. You can put your events for your kids in there. So,
Hmm.
you can keep track, and then you can also upload documents in there as well. And then when you print it out, it shows it all and it's clear for the court, and the court recognizes it because the platform itself certifies the records. You can't go in and modify them or edit them or
Hmm.
anything like that. And another good thing that I like about those platforms is that it also shows you when someone opened your message and read it,
Oh,
when they
wow.
downloaded a document or viewed a document. So all of that, I didn't get your message, is out the
Hmm.
window because you don't
Yep.
have an opportunity to say that, right?
Hmm.
And then if you request it as a part of your court order, specifically if you are in, the middle of family court, then you can ask the court to make an order that both of you are required to check it a certain number of times. So
Okay.
most of my court orders say the parents are required to check it every 24 hours and respond within 24 hours.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's no, I didn't get your message. I didn't see your message, because you're supposed to check it every 24 hours. So you should have
Hmm.
saw it, even if you
Hmm.
didn't open it. And if you didn't open it, then you're still technically not following the order because you're supposed to open it, right? So
Right.
so Talking Parents is a good one. Our Family Wizard is a good one. I think there's one called Co-Parent Talk or something like that. If any of you have used any other apps, feel free to drop those in the comments. I am not a sponsor of any of them. I just know how easy it makes,
It
things
makes it so easier.
specifically when we're trying to create a paper trail, right? Because
Yes.
that's the reality. You need your paper trail, especially if you're litigating. So,
Yeah. Well, those
um,
are some good apps. I wish they had them years ago, like
okay.
probably 15 years ago. I would
Right.
have.
We over here screenshotting and printing out text messages and stuff.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah. So those are my main do's don'ts. The other one, I guess I would go with don't use your kid as a messenger.
Oh,
And
yes.
in most of my orders, that's actually a part of the order. But sending your kid to say, well, daddy wants me to go with him to Disneyland on Fridays, and he told me to come and ask you. Or
Mm.
mom said that she wants to take me to football practice, and she just wanted you to know she's taking me to football practice or she's picking me up. Like, no,
Yeah.
don't make your kids do that. Keep them out of it. You be the parent. I mean, if your kid is 16, 17, that might be a different story, you
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, even if your kid is old enough to say, well, I'm getting picked up by mom today or whatever, I would still confirm it with the other
Okay.
parent, to keep that parental control, you know.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah,
Those are some good don'ts.
yeah, those are don'ts. Now, do's, I would say try to be reasonable and pick your battles.
Okay.
We like to fight over things that ain't even really worth fighting over. You
At
know,
all. At all.
I use this as an example a lot, in you know, any of my co-parent coaching or anything like that. And that's because people will say, I have to have, you know, whatever the kid's name is, every Tuesday and Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they have to go to football practice. Well, can't the other parent take them to football
Yeah.
practice?
Right.
Well, yeah, but I need to be the parent that takes them to football practice. Like, but why though?
Right.
You know, like if it's not something that is war worthy, which is what I try to teach people in any of my programs or, you know, sessions. If it's not war worthy, don't go to war over it, because there are going to be some things that are war worthy, right? So you have to figure out what those things are. And so, for example, your child's safety, that's war worthy.
Right.
What school they go to or what school district they're in, that might be war worthy. You
Mm-hmm.
know, whether they're going to see a psychiatrist or be prescribed psychotropic drugs, right? If one parent is claiming that they need meds and you don't believe so, that might be war worthy. Whether
Mm-hmm.
you take little Bobby to practice or not might not be. You
Right.
know, whether they play for the Eagles or the Rams in their
Mm-hmm.
little league team may not be war worthy. So these are the types of things that I always tell my clients, you got to be mindful and pick your battles,
Think
because
about
otherwise you're going to be battling all day, every day, and ain't nobody got time for that.
right.
Another do is to try to be cooperative and reasonable, you know, just generally when you are, you know, coming up with your parenting plan, or even just, you know, the other parent making requests. If you ain't doing nothing this weekend and they say, hey, can I get them this weekend?
Yeah.
Saying, no, it's my weekend. For
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Like, why?
Like if your
And
birthday falls on that weekend and it's
yeah.
not your,
And
you know, yeah, you may want them for the weekend. And that's a big one that my ex and I had an argument about was, it's like, but
yeah,
it's my birthday. Like, but
right.
it's my weekend. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
wow.
See, and that is so dumb, because here's the reality. If you can build that rapport, right? If you're
Hmm.
reasonable and you're able to offer that when they, you know, ask for a little bit extra. Oh, I got off work early. Can I pick them up today? Sure. Go ahead and pick
Yeah.
them up.
Hmm.
First of all, let me just say this. I don't understand, absent dangerous circumstances, right? Or extreme circumstances that warrant a parent not being involved. If somebody else, another parent in particular, wants to be able to share this additional time with your kids, wants
Hmm.
to be able to spend time with them, and and you're the primary parent, and that's going to give you a little bit of a break.
Yes.
Listen,
What's the problem?
you over here fighting over 4 hours? Really? You know what I'll do in 4 hours in my life right now? Of
Right.
uninterrupted time?
Yes.
So I have to tell my clients that, and a lot of times they sit back and they're like, you know what? Dang, that is dumb. Like,
Yeah.
you want to go grocery shopping. You just were complaining to me that it's so hard to go grocery shopping when you got 4 little kids.
Hmm.
The dad or the mom, whoever, right, is offering to pick the kids up on Tuesday. Go grocery shopping by yourself.
Right.
It will change your life. Right? Like,
Yes. It's
you
a
won't
sense
even,
of peace.
but Tuesday is my day. All right, then, you know
Yeah.
what? So yeah, be cooperative and reasonable. And I'll probably say that a lot, right? Like everything will tie back to that.
Hmm.
And then just try to create that space and remember to always, and this some of your parents probably told you when you were growing up, but treat people the way you want to be treated, right? Like,
True. Yeah.
um and not how they treat you,
Hmm.
because the other parent may be unreasonable. They may want to curse and scream. They may want to cause drama at every single custody exchange or anytime you interact with them. And as long as you feed into that, as long as you fuel that, it will continue to happen.
Right.
If you are just adamant in making sure that you're not going to participate in that foolery, then the other parent either is going to continue to act a fool by themselves, or they will eventually stop because nobody wants to argue with themselves if they're not going to be engaged, right?
Right.
And so, I mean, you're in the mental health field, so anytime I have this conversation with a mental health professional, they always talk about how specifically if there is narcissism or any of those things going on, how the way that you respond can essentially impact that other person and cause them to continue to do things that you want them to stop doing. So, I mean,
very true. Yeah, very true.
Health,
because I call it fanning the fire. Like, it's a fire and you fan it, it's going to keep blazing. So, like you say, treat people how you want to be treated. And if you can escalate a lot of things by not just keep going. And that's, like I said, for me personally, that's why I started the email. I'm like, why am I arguing with somebody that I divorced? Why are we still arguing? We're not together.
Right.
We just have to raise our child together. So let me find a different alternative so we could communicate in a healthy manner, because we still talking about stuff that happened years ago, and we still got 18 years to raise this child, and we got to do it the best way possible.
Right.
So
absolutely.
And that's why I tell people, you just have to find a different alternative to handle certain things. And that's what I went with. And I use my examples in my life all the time. Cause,
hey, listen, so do I. I learned some lessons. Listen.
Yes. And I'm learning every day. So, yeah. Well, you gave us some very good tips for people who, like I said, this is a topic when I was growing up, it wasn't a such thing as you hear about blended families. But now there's so many blended families all over. And that's why I just wanted to touch on this topic. So I really appreciate all your tips and everything. So, well, I know this is your platform and they follow you.
Tell us about you.
Oh, well.
What you got going on?
Well, right now I'm going to be starting a membership program where I'll be talking to people like yourself, like attorneys and coaches and therapists that be coming out. And that's why I was, doing the Instagram lives of different people on topics, because everybody don't know the resources that they can find. And that's where I come in. I help people find therapists who don't know how to find therapists or find coaches. And that's the part that I play in. And me being a mental health coach and advocate myself.
Awesome.
But the way I got into it, my father suffered from paranoid schizophrenia, and that's when I wrote my first book about emotions of the mind. And then now I became a certified mental health coach, and I just feel like I want to give back to my community as much as possible. And with the Black community, we always saying, well, how do we do this? And I think it's just something we never talked about. And I want to talk about it as much as possible.
That's dope.
Yeah.
So what's your platform going to be called, or what is it called?
Your mental health is non-negotiable.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Now people can already join your community or not yet?
Not yet. We're still tweaking some things.
Okay.
But they can always join my Instagram page, which is at Tamela C Todd.
Okay. Her name is on the screen. Add a C to the middle.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I am Marissa Grayson. For those of you who are new here or just stumbled upon this video, thank you all for tuning in. And if you are in the blended family space, I am on Instagram. I also have just started an online community, a private community called Family Court Academy, where we talk all things divided and blended family, including how to navigate the family court system. There'll be tips, tools, resources. It's essentially a social media and informational platform for anyone in a divided and blended family. And right now we have, I believe, 3 free courses and programs in the community. So familycourtacademy.com is where you go for that. And anything else from you?
No, that's it. I appreciate your time. And this was some great information. And like I said, I wish I had this information when I was going through it, but my kids are all My youngest is 17. So, so
Awesome.
yeah. So I wish
Well,
I had
thank
this
you.
information. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
No problem. Thank you for your time. And everyone else, follow us, find us. And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. And we will see you next time.
Thanks a lot.